Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Today, we saw the markets gap down, rally back positive, then sell off, then ultimately float up for the remainder of the day. This week, we do have JOLTS data hitting the markets tomorrow at 10 a.m., but then we also do have non-farm payroll and unemployment reports that are going to be reported on June 6th at 8:30 in the morning. So those are this week's news market movers. Into the heat map and also the market summary we go, as we see here today, that the Dow Jones is now up 0.16%, NASDAQ up 0.57%, S&P 500 up 0.48%. U.S. oil had a fantastic day, now up 3.71%. Gold also had an amazing day, up 2.78%, as well as silver. We'll look at both of those charts here in a little bit. And Bitcoin is under pressure. I'm going to get into showing you guys some more information about Bitcoin on that chart here in just a moment. So into the bigger general heat map of the S&P 500, you see Microsoft somewhat flat. Google is down today, down 1.55%. Meta has a fantastic day on the books, up 3.62%, as well as AVGO up 2.57%, and NVIDIA up 1.54%. So these big company stocks really leading the way today. Otherwise, a very muted day in the market. As you see over here, consumer durables are getting hit all red in that screen. And then we have a lot of mixed green, gray, and red all throughout the other areas and sectors. Into the spiders, as you see here on the daily chart, today's action is more or less just sideways chop consolidation, but it is all the while important to know where we're closing. We're closing back above this trend line, 590 and 49 cents, currently at 592.13 for price action. Should we push higher? We're already into resistance right here. The next level will be 598.25. If we get some really good news in the markets, I can see us really blasting through that resistance area. But one thing I do want to caution you, and we'll get into this more with some of the other mega caps later, is just remember what occurred in February, in the middle of February, where we made new all-time highs, basically sweeping those highs, and then a big hard sell-off afterwards. So what I'm talking about is this area right here. A lot of mega cap stocks now are pushing near all-time highs. Are we going to see a similar reaction where price moved up, beating the previous highs, and then having a big sell-off afterwards? We'll see when we get into those charts here in a little bit. Into the Qs. The Qs, all in all, still sideways consolidation. Next resistance has already been tagged. If you see that here on Thursday, we went up, hit resistance, got rejected, came back down, looked like we were about to continue moving lower, but not so fast. Straight sideways consolidation. Next area of resistance on the chart is going to be 540 and 81 cents should we move higher. Into the SMH, very similar pattern that's developing here. As we're moving sideways on the charts, we need to get back above this inclining trend line right here, confirm a move above like we did here, so we have longer staying power. And then the next stop is 260.05, the high pivot placed right here before the markets faced severe pressure. Into the IWM. IWM is doing a good job here. As you notice, we've been highlighting this declining trend line on the IWM for quite some time. And this chart is very different than what we look at the Qs or the spiders, being that they're so close to their all-time highs. IWM is a good ways off its most recent highs here, about 40 points on this ETF. So the good news, though, for this is that we're staying in bullish consolidation mode right here underneath a resistance trend line. Normally, whenever you have consolidation under a trend line, the likelihood then shifts for a breakthrough of that trend line. Now that we've tagged this trend line numerous occasions, that opportunity is presenting itself, and probabilities are now shifting for the smaller caps in the IWM to start making a run. We'll see if that happens in the coming days. If we finally break above that area, if we do, major resistance up at 214.38. Into Bitcoin. Now, a couple things I want to go over today with Bitcoin is we did have our last show here on Thursday. So Thursday's price action was right here. We were breaking this 50% area of the parallel channel. Since then, what is forming right here on the charts, guys? We see that as clear as day. That is a bear flag. Now, it's not mature yet. We'll need a couple more days of consolidation in this area for price to move down. But in the near-term scenario, it's looking like a bear flag is beginning to form on Bitcoin into the 10-minute chart on Bitcoin. So you can see a little bit more detail about what's going on intraday. You can see here this inclining trend line I've got from a pivot low on May 25th, strung up through the next pivots, and then piercing this area right here. But notice where the price action tried to save itself today. We kept getting rejected by this trend line, all the while forming another bear flag right here on the 10-minute chart. So the near term and midterm prospect of Bitcoin doesn't look so rosy. It looks like we need to come down a little bit. If that's going to be the case, we got support areas right here at 101,872, followed by the $97,000 mark right here at the bottom end of the parallel channel. We'll see if this pattern changes in the next couple days, but that's just the price action right now. What it's showing me the likelihood is going to happen on Bitcoin. Into gold, a breakout move today on gold. Fantastic move, breaking above this parallel. So first step accomplished, break the parallel. Second step, get a confirmation move above tomorrow. We'll be watching this closely to see if we do close above today's candle tomorrow. If so, that will make this area of the parallel support and then would also provide additional probabilities for a continued move higher on gold. Although still keep in mind, the weekly topping tail and daily topping tail are still intact. That should present a lot of resistance for gold to break through. We'll see how that price action develops. Into silver. Silver's had a monumental day, guys. This has been really fascinating to watch. Over the past several weeks, we've been analyzing silver, saying, hey, silver's about to break out. Look at this bull flag pattern. Okay, now it did break out. Put it in another bull flag pattern. Looks like we can be moving higher. And sure enough, that's exactly what's going on with silver. Check out silver again here, guys. So here's that move up, that bull flag that I just mentioned, and another bull flag putting price comfortably above this neckline of the inverse head and shoulders pattern. So that then leads me to believe down the road, not sure when, but right now, silver's got a target of $38.97 on it, implying a move up here roughly of about 12.1%. So that should be an incredible move for silver. There will be stopping points and pullbacks along the way, much like this resistance trend line that's outlined, not far away from current price at $34.86. Into U.S. oil. U.S. oil had a great breakout day today. We need to see follow through tomorrow. Will we close above this candle that has been printed today? We'll find out tomorrow. If so, we finally can then say we are moved and confirmed above this declining trend line, which price action has been struggling to get above over the past couple months. We'll see tomorrow on that price action. Into nat gas. Nat gas also did have a very big explosive day. This, as you may know, nat gas is called the widowmaker for a reason. Often cases, I even describe it as somewhat being bipolar. We're falling down, nope, now we're up. We're falling down, nope, now we're up. So this chart is very hard to follow, especially predict when you are going to bottom out. But all the while, what price is telling me today when we close, we're right back in this wedge, meaning that we still have a few more days left, but we still could have an opportunity to break up inevitably instead of break down like what we've been seeing happening over the past several weeks. Into the 10-year. 10-year didn't really move too much today, up 0.048%. So slight move up all the while, though, still good because we're holding this price action underneath this declining trend line. We'll start having some pressure on the markets if we do have the 10-year yield rise above this and confirm up above, as that would signal we're going up higher, likely to 4.8% on the 10-year. So watch this declining trend line from the pivot high of February 12th, strung along to the very next pivot on April 11th. Into Meta. Now, Meta exploded up higher today. You notice here this was kind of an awkward shape, bullish consolidation, more or less kind of near term, a big poke up, then a fall back down, bear consolidation, but all in all maintaining up here rather than coming back down and consolidating. Ultimately, price action broke above this recent high and is now pushing higher. Next area to attack on Meta, should momentum continue, it's going to be the bottom end of this parallel channel. But also notice where that corresponds with previous price. There's a gap fill right here, right around $716.37. Notice where that likely will be should price continue moving vertical in this fashion, will likely come into resistance at this parallel at the same time that this gap fill is filled, which should be significant resistance on the chart there of Meta. Something to watch out for. Now, if this pattern and move up fails, first area support that I'm watching is this inclining trend line right around 621 and 55 cents. Into AVGO, another breakout scenario, breaking out of this inclining parallel channel. If you recall back over several episodes, I was talking about this bull flag pattern, how it could lead to further upside, and that's exactly what's happening so far. We had a pause day there on Thursday with a little pullback, as well as on Friday, but then today we're now pushing back through, tagging this inclining trend line that you see here on the 10-minute chart. We basically kissed it right here. It didn't pierce it, but got close enough to be considered a tag, and then price pulled back and then chopped around on the top end of that parallel. Now, this bull flag has a measured move up to 261.31. And like I was highlighting on the spiders chart, will we then poke up, make new all-time highs, sweep those highs as far as folks and investors selling on those all-time highs, and then rapid price action coming right back down? We'll see, but that's exactly what happened here on the spiders. We had price action come back up, make new all-time highs, and then boom, like a big water slide straight down. And that could be what's going to happen with AVGO. We'll find out and we'll see. But man, I got to say, this price action has been very, very strong. So I'm interested to see how it moves, what it does in the future, if it confirms above this parallel, as it's already very extended out on the charts. Into Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has been floating higher over the last several days. You see, we didn't really put in a bull flag and then move up. We've just kind of been floating higher. So I would almost say this is more of a candidate that could sweep the highs, with the highs being 468.35. But then I've also got a backup level too here. If I scroll back out onto the charts, and we're talking about a long time in the past. So we'll flip this over to the weekly time frame so you can see where I chose a pivot. Is from all the way back in December of 99 or January of 2000. If you fast forward on the charts all the way up, you can see here from that pivot to the very next major pivot that we have on the charts, and that's providing a resistance area just above this 468.35, which is the previous highs on the chart for Microsoft. So should Microsoft continue moving higher, expect resistance at the all-time highs, but if momentum just pushes through, I would then anticipate right up here on this inclining trend line, right around 483.77, that we should have major, major resistance on Microsoft for a pullback and ultimately potentially pulling back to this top end of the parallel channel. And then if not there, at least tagging this recent high over here, this high pivot at 456.16 into Tesla. Now, Tesla did start faltering today. It was one of the stocks in the mega cap zone that was the largest down earlier in the day. As you can see here, we're creating a nice wick on this daily candle. But notice where price caught support. It caught support based off the current trend. This trend that you see is outlined by this inclining trend line. It's showing you where price and the trajectory of price has been held since this low pivot here placed in April on April 21st. So prices continue to move up, and as we would expect on a third hit, price came right back down into that trend line, tagged it, pierced it, but ultimately today is closing back above and doing just well. Now, ultimately, though, we did not close above this declining trend line, nor did we confirm above that space earlier when price action was up here last week. So all the while, this is still bullish consolidation. Tomorrow, we'll see which way it breaks, whether we break up or we break down on this particular trend to see the forward momentum of Tesla. I think the upside resistance, and I think it still can be tagged as 383.76. The measured move from this bull flag pattern is up here at 415.35 into Google. Google, as we see here, has fought really hard to get back inside the parallel channel. But just notice, the difference here with Google and AVGO and AVGO being at all-time highs. Google a long way off from all-time highs. Same thing too with Tesla, a long way off from all-time highs. But we know this was caught up in some political news, which could be part of the reason it's not trading up in this range. But Google wasn't really tied into that news. So that tells me, should the markets continue to push higher, Google has a long way to run. So if we can, and you notice here, we never confirmed in this parallel. If we can get back inside this parallel and confirm, the clock is reset with all this price action. So the next candle in is all that matters. And then we will be releasing some sort of buying pressure to push Google higher. Right now, this trend line to watch currently at $170.57. Watch that tomorrow. If we get above that area, that likely will start leading to more upside for Google. Into Apple that we see here on this Mega Cap Monday covering all these big stocks. We see this Apple, in essence, has been caught in this declining parallel channel outlined by this trend line here, as well as this bottom trend line right here. Now on the bottom, we've hit this side more than 8 times, pierced it, gone under, traded underneath, gone back above and confirmed and caught support. Well, most recently, we caught support again on the bottom end of this trend line. So all the while, though, that still remains the line in the sand to beat on the way to move down. The next support area on Apple's 186.53. But then ultimately, this top area has not been tagged only twice. So it hasn't been tagged in quite a while. I would expect, should the market start getting any sort of tariff relief news, which it doesn't seem to be on the horizon, especially with China, we would be moving up to 223.89. But who knows, like with negotiations and deals, how they proceed, a lot of times information can change 180 degrees overnight. So we'll see if we get any sort of development there. If so, that's going to push Apple right up here to this 223.89 resistance area. Now up into Cleveland Cliffs. Cleveland Cliffs had some news as far as Trump administering and at least announcing a double on the current tariff rate, pushing the tariffs on steel up to 50%. So on this news, Cleveland Cliffs then gapped up, rocketed higher, but where did price action stop? If you notice here, it stopped on a technical trend line. We had a major pivot created back here in September of 24, and I drug this trend line all the way out to the very next major pivot on the chart, and then just simply strung out that trend line all the way out to current price action. And that's where price stopped today. You notice we pierced it, but ultimately finished underneath it. So that tells me that now this level is the line in the sand for CLF to continue moving higher. Currently right at $7.40. Support on CLF, should you have missed this move, that's quite all right. Don't chase it. Wait for a pullback. The first pullback area that I would be interested in buying is $6.59. Notice down here on the bottom of the screen, we've got a daily bottoming tail. Those are very positive signals on the charts. And what usually happens after daily bottoming tails? Well, a move higher, just like what you see here. This was another daily bottoming tail. Look at this. History is repeating itself. Another move higher. So whenever you see these sort of formations at the bottom of charts, be thinking about buying, because likely the move will go up on the very next trading day or subsequent trading days like we saw right here with CLF. Into Steel Dynamics. Steel Dynamics also had a big push up off this back end of the news of tariffs potentially doubling, but also where did price action stop? It's very simple, guys, to understand this stuff, especially if you're interested in day trading. I know I am. Day trading is one of my most favorite things to do, and it's mainly because you can see these moves before they're even about to happen. And then once they happen, you could find the levels with the work you've already done and analyzed on the chart. Now back into STLD, we noticed that price did gap up here and then pushed all the way up here above 141 and then started getting above 142. And if we flip into the 10-minute chart, look at that. Right above 142 to 142.42, then created a 10-minute topping tail, then kerplunk. That stock was done for the day. All the momentum, all the energy that was pent up in this stock was just delivered first thing in the morning, and then buyers were exiting and being happy to take profits from this massive move up. As you can see, a nice move, even finishing the day down here, still up 10.27%. All right, guys, so that wraps up Trading the Close. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, my name is Drew. Look forward to bringing you guys some more details tomorrow. Until then, y'all have a great day. Thanks so much.